folks are going, who is this guy? How did he get here? John, thank you so much. It's great to be here, I would say, generally speaking, but what's weird about this is I have to speak in front of a U.S. senator, an ambassador, I have representatives of Congress, I have a deputy secretary of labor, I have Dr. Sheen, so there's no pressure, none. A U.S. attorney on top of that, that's leading into me. And here I am, I'm much beloved by the country right now, I'm a member of the press. Dr. Sheen, I think you made a mistake. But here I am, and it's great to be here. And I know the news can get a little depressing sometimes, right? Here and there. And so you're probably wondering, how do journalists handle this whole thing? Well, we drink. Just come over to table 2. I will prove that out. And what's interesting, because I was a morning anchor for quite some time, we even did it after morning shows. 10 a.m. happy hours. How about that one, huh? We didn't close down the places. We would open them up, and then we'd close them down. And that's how good we were. I have such a complex now. I put brown paper bags over bottled water. All right, no more jokes. That's it. All right. By the way, cheers, since we are talking about drinks, to naisA. Thank you for doing this. 3rd annual, right? Congratulations. Very well done. I'm a long-term mentee and mentor, and so I cannot appreciate the fact that we have so many different great programs across the country, this being one of them. So thank you, Dr. Sheen. Thank you for doing what you're doing, as well as the rest of your team and tonight. Thank you so much. Now, it's been a little bit of a busy time for journalists. And so nobody obviously watches any news here. For me, it's been very interesting only because I travel abroad a lot to talk about this. I've gone to the Middle East, Asia, and Europe. And the purpose here is for me to talk about what it's like to be an American, to be able to do what I do, to be able to tell stories, to look like this and do that here. And we are unique in that way. Now, the topics you can probably imagine: what is free speech? What does that mean? What does it mean to have a constitution guaranteeing a free press? What does that 4th estate thing mean? That check on the 3 branches of government, holding accountable a Congress, a judiciary, and an executive? What is that? And the same concerns I would hear when I would go to these different corners of our great globe, I now found when I came home, I heard the same questions. And things may have evolved. There's a Time magazine headline some of you saw last year that said, "America is no longer the standard bearer of a free press." I don't know if I agree with that. So the false news phenomenon persists, and this phrase particularly, is used as a joke to poke fun at things that we disagree with. That's false news. Only it is, we all know, not a joke, because false news, in the end, is false news. But you know what isn't false news is America's ranking. Reporters Without Borders annual Global Press Freedom Ranking, it has dropped our great country by 4 places in 2018. We are now number, Bueller, 45 out of 180. We're in the ranks of some countries you don't want to be in the ranks of. So this election day, I said, I'm going to hit the road to see how challenges to free speech has affected another of our great freedoms of America, voting day. And I started with a visit to the embassy of Saudi Arabia. And there I stood in front and spoke to Courtney Radish of the Committee to Protect Journalists. And she told me, the murder of Jamal Khashoggi shows how the press is being attacked. But at the same time, it shows the durability of the spirit of journalism. It is strong. Later that day, election night 2018, I then went to Annapolis. Anybody been there before? Beautiful town for very many reasons. We're here in one of those great places, here in one of the fantastic representative military installations here at the country club. And I went to Annapolis because that's where 4 journalists were killed in June. And I visited the local events, Republican and Democratic, hung out with them. I got to admit, it was a little bit fun. You know, it was a little bit of work, plus a little bit non-work. Both parties, both events, folks there told me this. Their local paper, the Capital Gazette, was important to them. Didn't matter, their color or stripe. They wanted to see the Capitol prosper. And we all know here in this room for over 200 years, Americans have learned what truth looks like through local news, through soapboxes, through messengers on horses. Jane or John down at the Daily Bugle, those folks were good people, weren't they? They were really good people. They were journalists also. And I knew them. They would never purposely put out this idea of bad news. And I've been reading their paper my entire life, and so did my dad and my grandpa and my grandma. And that's the community support that I'm seeing bubbling up in any town USA today. And yeah, I do believe the local news industry has had some tough times. The local news industry has lost, by many measures, half of their limbs or more. And it's been left to now the larger organizations, national ones, to tell the local stories. But with the idea of false news and that phenomenon, it has re-energized journalists and the communities they serve. And the 500,000 miles I travel every year, the great thing that is so great about this place is that folks in all these towns will say, I do believe in this. I do believe in the benefit of how we must have local news, similar to the idea that we like local produce. So that power that I'm talking about, it's both local and direct. And it's true here today. We're here at this gathering at the esteemed Army-Navy Country Club in Arlington, and it's not without symbolism that I am going to overlook. Also, we're here in Virginia. And for those of you who were here on June 12, 1776, nobody? Well, this is, pray tell, a very interesting statement that was made by George Mason weeks before Independence Day. He said this, quote, "The freedom of the press is one of the greatest bulwarks of liberty and can never be restrained but by despotic governments." 1776, June 12th. So here tonight, what's great is we do have here the very same idea with naisA. The idea in 2013 brought on by Dr. Jamie Yonghee Shin to build leadership in our Asian American Pacific Islander community. Right here, local. To add more faces like ours in corner offices. And that's the truth, right? And here tonight we also have an individual I call one of my mentors, Chris Liu, the highest ranking Asian American during the last administration. He was Deputy Secretary of Labor, and before that he also had a smaller title called White House Cabinet Secretary. You can laugh. He led the formation of a cabinet that had the most ever Asian Americans in it. And that's the truth. And here tonight, we also have the president of the Asian American Journalists Association. I'm a member. I'm a little biased when it comes to journalism. And I do believe it's one of the most respected voices in journalism today nationally. And we have President-elect Michelle Healy, who has worked in both small and large news organizations and knows that truth is local and can be national at the same time. And that's the truth. But I wanted to share, as Dr. Sheen asked me to, a little bit of my own truth and why journalism is so important to me and why I'm so honored to be here today. It involves my Chinese name, and I do not speak Chinese, as has been pointed out many a time. but it's 咏诗, which means brave poem. And there is more to, and I'm a journalist, so you can see where that might fit in. But there's more to that Chinese name, especially the last name, which I have, is Louis. The one my grandfather gave to the immigration officer on Angel Island in 1909. And my grandfather came here from a very poor town in China, a farming town. And I think implicitly he was thinking a couple things. But number one, I'm coming to America so my grandchildren will not have to become me, a farmer, a poor farmer. And so I say now today often, thank you, Grandpa. I am not you because of your brave, weeks-long trip in an uncomfortable boat. What we have thought, what would he have thought, I think, if he had seen me today? A news anchor for a small company called NBC Universal. But I'll never know. So here's the twist. Nobody in my family knew that he came here to this great country illegally. He bought a false name. Louis was not his real name. He lied. He paid bad money for a gray market piece of paper, immigration papers. And with those false papers, he pretended to be this guy called Louis. His real name is Wong. My real last name is Wong. I'm Richard Wong, not Richard Louis. I have the wrong name. That was, come on, layup, please, just laugh. Thank you, please. I worked on that all day. And guess what? 1 out of 3 Chinese Americans have the story I just described. 1 million people in America. And it started only because of the only law ever to outlaw a specific nationality in 1882. A law seen as you can probably imagine, racially charged. And that story is my beginning. It is me. I own it because I own the fact that it is part of our great fabric here. But the problem is that's a story that's not often told. And that's why I'm a journalist. I got to tell stories like that that are not told. So I can't thank you, Jamie, for this kind award, because as you can probably tell, this is not for me, but it's for all of the tables here from table 1 to 55. We'll have 55 tables next year. And that is why I wanted to say that, because for all that free speech has given to us as we gather tonight, and how it is the fuel that gives us this, what I believe is unequaled mix of faces this country enjoys like no other, I cannot appreciate the fact that we are recognizing the idea that we have the ability to say whatever we want. Thank you.